Grab your peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Today's guest is really hitting for the fences. Today's episode is going to be a home run. Welcome back to MB2 Underground. I'm Sarah Kiefer.
And I'm JT, Jonathan Tyrock. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Great. Are you ready to take me out to the ball game?
I'm excited.
I haven't been to a game in a while, so I don't know if they actually even still do that.
No, of course they do. Seventh inning stretch.
Obviously, that's exactly what I just said.
It's amazing. I like the intro.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
It was a really good one to start today with, and I think that's a really interesting story. I can't wait to hear about. But before we get there, I've got to introduce our guest. So today's guest is someone who's been through about every phase you can imagine in this profession. So he started out as a junior partner, a solo owner, and now a senior partner, and finally a partner with MB2.
Shout out.
He's a risk taker, I think, as we'll find. He's been an associate professor at Columbia's ortho program for over 40 years. And
he's had 3 knee surgeries, 2 shoulder surgeries.
And he played college baseball without his dad knowing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I want to hear about that.
So without any more introduction, welcome Dr. Steve Luccarelli. Hey, Doc.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for coming on. JT just mentioned you played college sports without your dad knowing.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Big
and
secret.
Why?
Well, basically, my dad was a dentist. He wanted me to be a dentist, and he didn't want me to play ball. And basically, when I told him that I was going to play D1 baseball for Fordham, he's like, "No, you're not. If you got so much time on your hands, go out to work." He was a hardworking guy, good guy, but if he felt as though baseball would be a waste of time. But this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to play center field for the Yankees or anybody that would take me.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good in high school, pretty good in college, but certainly, once I started playing baseball, D1 level, I found out that I just wasn't good enough to do that. But I did want to play anyway, and my dad was totally against it. My mom, on the other hand, she was all for it.
So one parent knew and one parent didn't know?
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh.
It was a big conspiracy.
Did he ever find out? Or maybe when did he find out?
I was like, if he's finding out now.
Yeah.
Whoops.
But he apparently, the rumor is that he found out somewhere between my 3rd and 4th year at Fordham.
Okay.
That's pretty impressive.
From a patient, So he was a dentist in the Bronx. Fordham was in the Bronx, or is in the Bronx, and he found out and never told me.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he never told me. But my mom schemed the whole thing. She got my siblings on board. She got my girlfriend, who's now my wife for 40 years.
Oh, that's sweet.
And the rest of the town. She even got merchants to pretend like I was working for them, and everybody kind of knew about it except for my dad. And you could just thank the whole town for giving me support. She used to wash my uniform in the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh!
I would
dedication to the craft.
I'm telling you, I used to play a game, drive home, change out of my uniform into my street clothes, drive into the driveway, say hello to my mom and dad, go upstairs. She would go out in the middle of the night, wash my uniform, dry it, put it back in the car. I would go off to school the next day.
An angel.
Yeah, she was great.
And didn't you say that you ended up deciding that you wanted to be a dentist because of baseball?
Yeah. Well, when I was playing baseball, I was playing against really good players. I mean, Johnny Franco, Frank Viola, Ron Darling.
Oh, nice.
Found out pretty quickly I just did not have the talent to go all the way. So I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I was completely lost, didn't know what I wanted to do. And one game, I'm playing center, a guy on second, ground ball up the middle, go to bend over to go throw him out, field the ball, throw him out, bad hop, hits me in the mouth, fractures my 2 front teeth.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm spitting teeth out.
No.
Yeah. So
like a boss.
I had to make up a story and went to go see my dad.
What was the story?
I told him that I was working on a compressor and I, slipped or whatever and I hurt my teeth. And made up some. I wasn't even working, so I just made up some kind of story, and he was pretty pissed. But he did a root canal, crown, all that other stuff, and it was pretty cool that I could walk in there with these jacked up, fractured front teeth, and then like a few visits later. Have a smile and have teeth back and be able to eat and joke around and stuff like that. So that kind of inspired me. I'm like, you know what? This is a really cool thing to do. Maybe I'll go and do that. And it worked out well.
Is it kind of crazy that the thing that your dad wanted you to become, you only became because of the thing he didn't want you to do?
Yeah.
That's deep, Sarah.
Thank you.
That's
kind
deep.
of a
For
beautiful
real.
full
Never
circle
really
moment.
thought of it that way, but yeah.
Listen, MB2 Underground. That's what we're here for.
Man,
Yeah.
that's a hell of a bad hop if it hits you in the teeth and it busted them.
It sucked. He's spitting teeth out and everything like that. But
That's wild.
But at least it put me in a direction and where it helped me get my career going or go in that direction anyway.
All right, I have a question. We've got listeners from all over the country, and this is something as someone who grew up in Texas, we do.
Okay.
As someone,
I think there's 6 of them.
Listen.
Hey, but Sarah's dad's one of them. Shout out to Sarah's dad. So as a Texas kid through and through, I grew up here. I've lived here my entire life. You grew up in New York, right?
Yeah.
In the Bronx.
Yeah.
What's that like? Like what's it like growing up in a concrete jungle city?
Well, I have only lived in that area. So it's pretty much the only thing I know.
Yeah.
And I do have a little bit of a regret. I wish that I had kind of gone away to college or lived somewhere else so that I could kind of compare what the Bronx and this 40-mile radius that I've spent my entire life at, all right, and live somewhere else. You don't get the real feel for something when you go and visit it or vacation, all right? But if I could have gone to college here in Texas, at least I'd have something to relate it to and say, hey, I really love New York, or I really don't. I love it. I just think there's so much culture. I think that, I actually think people are great. It really, I like New York and I'd probably spend the rest of my life there.
Yeah.
The reason I've been to New York once, and it was Long Island for an integration that we did. And I was a little overwhelmed. I'm an anxious person. And I remember talking to the team and I was like explaining something about benefits. And my counterpart was like, okay, let me go through that one more time because she talks really fast. And they're like, no, we got it. And I was like, oh, these are my people.
Yeah.
These are my people.
Yeah.
I can keep up.
Yeah. It's a fast pace. But I love that.
I can see that about you.
I love that.
That tracks.
Yep.
Before we get into the real meat and taters, that's a Texas saying for you. You mentioned something about having a patent.
Oh.
Did I say that right? That sounded weird.
Patent.
Patent.
Yes. Patent.
A patent. Okay, yes.
that thing.
Yes, you get it. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I thought I came up with this great idea.
Tell us.
It
was great enough to get a patent.
A patent.
Part of it worked out pretty nicely. This was 35 years ago when we actually put rings and bands around teeth. We don't do that anymore. Everything is just bracketed, right? So we used to put molar bands on, and I sucked at it. And I used to, have to try, different sizes, and I had like 6 sizes sitting around, and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I came up with an idea where you measure the circumference of a tooth. It's connected to a micrometer that would give a digital readout.
Obviously.
And it would translate to the exact band size that would fit a tooth. So I spent years on this. I had no money, so it was kind of expensive at the time and everything. And I go and get this patent, and I'm working out a deal with 3M, and
Whoa.
everything is going really well. They're like, hey, you know what? If we take this patent and we actually had a prototype, it was working, and we package it with the bands that we're selling, this will be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Within a year or two, the bonding materials became so great that Nobody. I haven't put a band on a tooth in probably 20 years.
Well,
It
was a really good idea, though.
It was a fun process. I learned a whole lot, but it doesn't make sense to come up with a really good idea unless it actually has a marketplace. So
Yes. Close enough.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Well, tell us about your. We know now how you got to become a dentist, right? You took
The compressor.
Ground ball. Yeah, the compressor. That's right. That's right. So orthodontics, you're in orthodontics. You've got a practice.
Mm-hmm.
You tried to buy your first building, or you bought your first building, and talk through
risky.
that experience. Yeah.
Oh, that was kind of a mess.
That's why we brought it up.
Thanks a lot. So I had been practicing for maybe about 20 years with my senior partner, Steve Weiss. And, he was probably getting ready to retire and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got another 25 years I want to practice. And I don't want to pay rent anymore.
Who does?
Who does? You're paying somebody else. If you really want to make a great office, you don't want to invest all this money in somebody else's property. All right. Plus, you're going to do it for another 20 years. You can't control the narrative. So I was hell-bent on making sure I bought a building. And for a year, I hired a realtor. We were driving around and see 100 properties. None of them worked because we had pretty strict parameters. We wanted to be really close to our original location. Yep. Needed great parking, which is super important for ortho because, listen, our appointments are like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If you have to wait 20 minutes or you have to spend 20 minutes looking for a parking spot, it makes the whole experience kind of suck.
I've left really doctors' offices specifically for the parking situation.
No question. Yeah. And I wanted like 3,000 square feet, double our space. So couldn't find anything. So now I fired my realtor, and I just started driving around the neighborhood and just knocked on doors of buildings that would work for us. Dropped off my card, said, hey, the owner, have him give me a call. And I did this for about a year.
You said, I can do your job better than you, realtor. You're fired.
Yeah, that's right. And I couldn't really find anything. I get a phone call from someone that had visited. And he says, hey, something's changed in my business and I'm thinking about selling. I'm like, great, that building will really work. It's close by, good parking. It was 11,000 square feet. It wasn't 3,000. It was 11,000 square feet.
That's a little bit bigger.
Oh, man. It was expensive. It was like $3 million. I had to take out a huge loan.
Oh, and you did it.
And yeah, and it needed to, and I enjoy, kind of seeing something that has good bones and kind of really make it into something else. And so I spent every penny that I had, all right, remodeling this office, outside, inside. I had to add 1,000 square feet to put in an elevator so I can rent out part of the building.
Oh my gosh.
And all this started in about 2003, bought it in 2005, finished it in 2007.
What did your wife think about you putting all of your money into this?
You know what? She was all in. She really
awesome.
is great with that also. She, in terms of, hey, investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're going to place a bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Because usually that will really work out. And she was cool with me just, saying, hey, look, this is going to be great. Let's really invest in this. And we got to be able to control it because we own the building.
It's yours. Yeah.
And so, a year after we open our doors, 2008 happens.
Oh, gosh.
The financial crisis.
Jeez.
The whole world is falling apart. I got no tenants. I got no money. My practice isn't doing well. I've got a house with a mortgage, a wife and 2 kids, and we are just barely scrapping by. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God, what did I do? I bought 11,000 square foot building, put everything into it. I gambled on all of this, and it's not working out. We're going to live in a cardboard box somewhere.
You're going to live in that 11,000 square foot building.
Yeah, it's converted into our home.
Wouldn't be the first.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so basically, I had a small satellite office in the city that I kind of worked more there to try to make ends meet. My wife, who's in finance, went from part-time to full-time. You know what? For the next couple of years, it was really rough, but it was really also pretty cool. The two of us worked really hard together to be able to scrape by and be able to get through a really tough time.
Yeah.
And it really was a good time, even though it was a bad time. And then, you know what, if you build something that you're really proud of, and you really make it a great space, and I would recommend that for anybody. Invest in yourself, make the most beautiful office that you can. It'll work out. It will. Growth. Your patients are happy. Your staff is happy. Everybody, including yourself. You're willing to spend 10 hours there because you like the environment you're in.
I think you named our episode title "Having a Good Time in the Bad Times." I think that's a good mentality to have.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I think we tend to find, like, when you look back, right? Like when you're in the thick of it, it sucks. And you're like, this is awful. But you look back and you're like, man, I learned so much during that time period, and the hard work. I keep trying to instill this in my kids. I'm like, you work hard now and you're going to look back and be like, this is easy because I was able to do that. And you know what? It's a lot. I'm glad I had to go through that. Or I'm glad I got to go through that. Like, that's just how it ends up.
You do learn a lot. You do grow with something like that. And it's not what happens that really matters. It's how you deal with what happens. Look, 2008 was out of my control. All right. But what was in my control is how I dealt with it, how we just worked a little harder trying to make ends meet, and then run off of that. So, how you respond is really important.
Yeah.
I know in the intro, JT mentioned you've been through 4 phases in your career. Tell us a little bit about each one of those phases and what your key takeaways, as we're talking about looking back and going, yeah, that may have been hard, but here's what I got out of it. What do you think were the most important lessons you learned in each of those phases?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, almost 40 years. And when I finished the program, a great guy by the name of Steve Weiss took me in, and he gave me my first job as an associate. And within a year, he offered me a partnership. And so I was his junior partner. And he taught me a lot about orthodontics, but mostly he taught me about life. He taught me what's important, how family's important, how to treat people, make sure that they know that you care, give them great experiences, care about your staff, care about your friends, care about your family. I learned so much from Steve about life. And we worked for 20 some odd years.
That's awesome.
Together, never had a disagreement, fantastic guy. And then, I learned a lot from him. And then he retired, and I spent 5 years, as a solo practitioner. Also a great time.
Yeah.
A lot of independence. I was, the captain guiding the ship, building a staff, very, very rewarding.
A lot of freedom and a lot of pressure at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly. It was very rewarding professionally and financially. I was the only partner. All right. But it was a ton of hours, ton of pressure, and, maybe a little bit lonely, so
Sure.
I got a lot out of that phase, but I enjoyed so much more working with somebody. And so shortly, maybe 5 years later, I met a guy by the name of Joe Barisi.
Shout out.
Out of Stony Brook. Greatest guy in the world. Love him with all of he's like a son to me. And he's the best. So I just got so lucky to have, a senior partner that was wonderful to me, and a junior partner that is the absolute best and like a son.
How did you guys get introduced?
I did a pretty deep search. I knew I needed a partner. I wasn't looking for an associate. I was looking for a partner so that, I can spend the rest of my career with one guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so it took me, a year and a half to find the right person. I interviewed 20 people, went out to dinner with 5. And, when I met Joe, I just knew it. And it's so nice to be able to share the little bit that I know, kind of mentoring him, kind of the way Steve mentored me, and feed off of his energy. And so really we're having a great time together.
I love that.
That was great.
Really terrific.
That's great. So mentoring him, like, how does that translate over to Columbia and what you've been doing there for years and years and years.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. It's something that I've been doing a long time, and I find that if one of the reasons why I like to teach is because if you really want to know something, try teaching it. All right, because you really have to know it, and it
Yeah.
has to be pretty clear in your head
To help
before
other
you can
people understand
to
it.
help other people understand it. So I think that for me, I probably got more benefit out of it than even my students. But I also think it's kind of cool that, over that period of time, I've probably made connections with hundreds of students that I get to see at meetings and gatherings, and we'll remember good times, and we'll talk about when we went out for a drink or whatever we might have taught together.
Mhm.
So it is a very cool thing to be able to see people that you've actually been able to influence or help their life.
I can imagine how rewarding that is. Even in my little experience doing integration, you get to work with doctor partners for a period of time, getting them integrated into MB2. And in a stressful time, like they're not always having a great time when they're filling out vendor guides, and then getting through integration, and we have other deals. And so we're moving on, and then seeing them at owners retreats or at events and being like, oh my gosh, how are you doing? How are things? Let's catch up.
Yeah.
Do you remember that time we grabbed a drink at dinner or whatever? And how heartwarming that is. I can imagine on a grander scale with your students, how cool it is.
Yeah, it really is. And to have that connection, see somebody 20 years later, know that they're doing great, and maybe you help them along the way.
Yeah.
So I just got a text from Sarah's dad, and he has a great question that I'm going to ask. In your 40 years of teaching, what's something, maybe what's the greatest lesson you've learned from a student?
Well, I would say that most students have their own perspective of things, and I could talk about one thing, and then all of a sudden, I realize these guys are so bright that they can see something in such a different direction, something that I couldn't imagine. And so, probably what I've learned most from my own students is that there are a bunch of different ways of looking at things.
Mhm.
And sometimes that youthful way and that creative way can really be very impressive and help me think outside the box and think differently from the way that I necessarily do things.
Yeah.
That
I-
takes a lot of open-mindedness to not be like, this is how it is because this is how I've known it, to be able to say, oh, I could see how your life experience gives you that perspective, and I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a cool thing to have.
They
Yeah,
come
very
from
much.
they come from a different direction and from a different point in their life.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about your mentorship, you being mentored and then you being a mentor. Tell us a little bit about your leadership philosophy and where you feel like that was created.
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with the sports that I've played over the years, right? I've always played team sports. I love being part of a team, and I've learned so much from that. Um, I think that knowing how teams function translates beautifully into working with staff and the family of your office.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to recognize that you have to have a clear vision. You have to have a game plan. You have to have teamwork.
Playbook.
Overlapping responsibilities.
Mhm.
Your shortstop needs to be able to play second base. Your outfielder needs to be able to pitch when you
Mhm.
need them. When we're short an assistant, our front desk staff has to kind of pitch in and help us back there.
Yep.
And I think that by recognizing the fact that the whole is better than the sum of the parts, as long as you can keep them as a team and kind of lift each of them up. And that's how you win championships. It's not because of what you do as an individual. It's how you affect everybody else on your team and have them grow and be better tomorrow than they are today. So I think that whatever little leadership skills that I have come mostly from all the experience of being on a lot of teams and seeing good coaching and things like that.
That's super cool. What's great about that, when I graduated from college and I started my career, the guys that I worked with, it was a very small company. They would only hire you if you played team sports. That's it, because they had that same mentality of, you understand how you have to work together for the greater good, and maybe you're really good at this, but you need to learn and be able to do that just in case. And everybody kind of rises together. So that's really, really cool.
That's right. I mean, think about, the responsibility of making sure you go to work. And when I think about, the times that I played ball, and you may have a game every other day, right? You're always hurt.
Yep.
You're always hurt. You play hurt. Otherwise, if you don't show up, the other 8 guys suffer.
Yeah.
All right. And you play hurt, you play sick, and you go to work. And that's kind of the way that we discuss it as a team is, hey, if you call out sick today, the other 10 of our team are going to have to work that much harder.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're sick, you're sick. But if you're a little sick, try to show up for the betterment of the whole team.
Well, and on the flip side of that, I only played individual sports. I was a gymnast. And so coming into the real world and having a job, it was a lot of intentional unlearning of somebody else can be successful and that doesn't make me less successful.
Yeah.
It was almost like this very competitive, because gymnastics is an individual sport. You compete as a team as well, but you're still in direct competition with your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of unlearning that, getting into the real world to be a part of a team. So I can see why they would only want to hire people in team sports.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective I've never thought of, because I never played.
Oh, I was fun to work with.
Competitive.
I'm much better now.
No, but competitively, I never played tennis or golf. I mean, I play those for fun, but that's really interesting that you were always in competition with your teammates. It's wild.
That was wild.
The cool thing I think about like teams and having folks in teams, like we're going back to your comment about, hey, if you're a little sick, but you call in, like everybody else has to work harder. On the flip side of the team aspect, if you're all part of a team, hey, we're going to pitch in a little bit more because Sarah's going to be out today, and that's okay because she needs to recover, and we got this. We got Sarah. We got you. So I think when you get those, you get the right people in the right places with all the same mentality. You have people that want to be at the office, like you said.
Yeah.
You've got people that when you can't be at the office, it's okay because their teammates are like, we got you.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful thing is when you see the rest of your team rally, and really everybody, all hands on deck, everybody's just working harder, and they just got it. So it's really a great thing.
I love a metaphor, so I appreciate that. Last question before we wrap up. If you had to identify the proudest moment of your career, what would it be?
Ooh.
And it's okay to not say this podcast.
This is one of them for sure.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of eyebrow movement. I can tell you mean it.
I don't know. Listen, I'm proud of what we built. All right. I'm proud of the work that we put out. I'm proud of the experience that we provide for our patients. I'm proud of my staff. We have the best staff in the whole world. But I guess the thing that is really cool is that, we've had patients go on to being dentists and orthodontists. And I would say the thing that really makes me proud is when they sometimes come by the office years later and they point at you and they say, it's because of you
that's cool.
that I went on to being an orthodontist, and it's the way that you treated me and cool environment, and everything was so nice. And while I was sitting in your chair, I said to myself, this is what I want to do. And to me, to be able to affect or change somebody's life in that way, in which they've decided to make this a career, it's just that's a really, really proud moment.
Yeah,
that's a lot
really
of influence.
Cool. That's really, really cool.
Is there anything we didn't get to that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think you covered everything.
Oh, thank goodness.
I'm good.
So please let me out of this room.
He's like, I'm done. I am done here. Well, Dr. Luccarelli, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, this was
My
fun. Thank
pleasure.
you.
This was great.
This was a blast.
Yeah.
MB2 Undergrounders, we have reached the conclusion of our latest episode. We appreciate everybody that tunes in, and we will look forward to talking to you guys next time.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.